Today we're going to be taking a look at several Necron datasheet changes that have been popping up in new packaging over the past week or so. Hello and welcome back to Auspex Tactics, the strategy focused 40k channel where we're all about getting the most out of our miniatures on the tabletop. So there's news of big datasheet changes to some core Necron units today, including the Spider, the Wraiths, the Triax Praetorians and the Triax Stalker. Much like the Invicta tactical warsuit that we discussed earlier in the week, these leaks come from new packaging that Games Workshop has been sending out with the models. It looks like they're updating the new packaging to have a new logo on for 40k, and updating their datasheets to be in line with what's going to be appearing in the codex. As per with the Invicta, it's a really simplified datasheet. We have absolutely no clue on special rules at all, and we can't be 100% certain whether or not the points costs will be changing from chapter approved 2020 when we get the new books. These are very much first sneak peeks as opposed to things that we can draw too reliable conclusions from, but I thought it would be still interesting to look over them just to see some of the things that will be changing. So first up we have the Canoptic Spider, which weirdly didn't seem to have points costs included in chapter approved 2020. A lot of things that didn't have their points costs included tended to be the things that would go to Warhammer Legends, or you'd expect to, but it sounds highly unlikely that that will be the case, seeing as they're already selling this guy and have even updated the datasheet for him. I honestly suspect that it's just an error. In any case, the Canoptic Spider seems to be getting a fair bit beefier. He's gone from 4 wounds to 6 wounds, where to be honest I think that 4 wounds was really quite low for a model of its stature. It's gone from 4 attacks to 5 attacks. Its particle beamers have been nerfed somewhat. Rather than 6 shots at 24 inches and strength 6, it's now only 18 inches and strength 5. But its automaton claws have been significantly buffed. They're now +2 strength, so we'll be hitting at strength 8. They're AP -1. And they're also damage 2 rather than D3, so quite good for going through things like Primaris Marines. Overall though, seems to be some decent improvements to the unit. Obviously will have to be balanced against points costs and things. Next up we have the Wraiths. They went up from 42 points to 45 in chapter approved, though it seems that their unit profile has received several nerfs. Their claws give them +1 strength, and their strength is now 4, so they'll only be strength 5 with the claws. Their armour has increased from 4+ to 3+, which could be seen as a buff, but seeing as they usually have the 3+ invul save, it does make me wonder whether or not they might be retaining that invul save, or they might be losing it in a similar way to Storm Shields did. The whip coils do appear to have been changed. In the previous edition they just gave an extra rule allowing the Wraith to fight when it died, and basically had the exact same profile as its claws. Their strength characteristic now has a weird sign by it, which I strongly suspect might equate to them wounding on something like 2s against infantry, or something similar to that, but they're only AP -1 and damage 1 now, so nowhere near as threatening against vehicles. I wouldn't be surprised if they're changing them to have extra attacks or something like that, to make them a bit more of an anti-infantry weapon. It appears that particle casters have been buffed, both on the Wraiths and on the Triax Praetorians that we'll get onto. They get 2 shots at 12 inches strength 6 now, and it's not bad if they do remain at the price that they were in chapter approved, which is free. If you're not upgrading to the whip coils or the transdimensional beamer, they're most certainly an auto-include at the moment. Finally, it also seems that the transdimensional beamer has seen some work. Previously they were kind of weird inaccurate heavy weapons with strength 4, AP -3 and 1 damage, though they did have D3 shots. Now interestingly they're assault 1 weapons at 12 inches, strength +2, so strength 6, AP -3 and a flat 3 damage. They're still very pricey if they're priced the same way as they are in chapter approved, which is 15 points, and I'm not sure if I'd consider them worth it even with this buff, but they could certainly do a number on some heavily armoured 3-wound models, say like Aggressors or something. Next up we have some changes to the Triax Praetorians and Lichguard, both of which increased kind of in line with what was expected from the points changes from 8th to 9th. They're both just a little bit deadlier in close combat, having 3 attacks rather than their standard 2, and the Triax have had their Rods of the Covenant buffed to damage 2 on both profiles. Again, another little pretty handy one for taking out Primaris Marines, and also their particle casters have been buffed just like the Wraiths have, to have 2 shots. Nice to see a bit of a buff for them, as I don't think they were the strongest unit in 8th to be honest. Finally we come on to the Triax Stalker, again not one of the strongest Necron units in 8th, but only received a relatively modest points increase, which isn't bad seeing as vehicles gained some useful new abilities, such as being able to shoot in close combat. This thing gained +2 wounds, so it's a little bit tougher than before, and could be a real pain to shift with quantum shielding, but it seems that several of its weapon profiles have also been changed. The Heat Ray's Flamer attack is now 12-inch range. The twin heavy Gauss cannon has seen some real rewrites, and it seems to have more in common with a twin standard Gauss cannon now than the heavy variant. The Gauss cannon is now 6 shots, strength 7, AP -3, not 2 sorry, and damage D3. I kind of wonder if they've just changed it to have the profile of a regular Gauss cannon and not bothered with the heavy one. Finally, that particle shredder has been changed to 8 shots at strength 6 and damage 2, so a little bit of minor shifting around there, probably a little bit stronger overall with having more shots. I think all of these changes do herald things to come in 9th edition. Games Workshop seems to be happy to have changed each unit's profile a bit if they wanted to make certain guns slightly better or slightly worse, or maybe slightly change the role of them. I think it will make army building just a little bit more interesting, seeing as the general feel of quite a lot of units looks like it might be changing a bit. I sort of feel it might be a small pain to try and update it in your mind the several minor stat changes that do change from one codex to the next. But to be honest, if it does add a little bit of more interest in army building and better helps to diversify the different units within a codex, then it's probably a price that's worth paying. So, like I said, I'm not sure we can draw all that many conclusions for which ones are strong at the moment, but it's interesting to note that there are a bunch of changes happening. I'm really looking forward to the Space Marine and Necron codexes dropping. I'll hopefully be doing some Necron unit reviews at the time of the Necrons decks, so feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics if you'd like to see more of that. If you're enjoying the channel at the moment and you'd like to help support, I'd just like to mention that I do have a Patreon page which is down in the video description below. Channel Patrons get to see one video a week early, there's regular polls to see what sort of videos come next on the channel, and you're also automatically entered into the Auspex Tactics prize giveaway with decent kits to win each month. If any of that sounds good to you, or you'd just like to help support, then the link is down in the video description below. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.